To fudge or not to fudge? That is the question. We don't want our players to lie about their die rolls, but sometimes game masters just have to, or do we? When should we cheat the numbers for and against the party? And what if there was a third option? Hi, I'm Marcus. I've been a game master for more than 40 years, and if one of your players sent you this video, then keep watching, and I'll try and help you understand why. When you're rolling dice behind the screen for the monster's attacks and damage, there's always that temptation. These are your friends, and you want them to have fun. What if you're mean to them? Isn't that bad? The problem is that if you quietly tweak the results in their favour all the time without their knowledge, they're going to think less of the challenges you put before them. They could get cocky, start fights that narratively they shouldn't win, and then be shocked if they do come to sticky ends. But if you never fudge a die roll, then suddenly any combat can turn into a total party kill. If the dice gang up on them, all it takes is one misunderstood monster ability and suddenly you've decimated the group with what was supposed to be a funny thing happened on the way to the dungeon. Does every fight in your game have to be to the death? If every enemy is a relentless killing machine with no remorse or capacity for reason, then okay. Make sure everyone has backup characters. A Shadow Dark Gauntlet relishes the wafer-thin futures of the characters it grinds through. But the most common time to be tempted to fudge a die roll is when you want to pull your punches and do less harm to established player characters. I think for a lot of GMs in rule-heavy games, a sort of board game mentality sets in. I'm just another player, and the rules say I roll this and it does that, which is good for consistency, but doesn't grasp the fundamental asymmetry. It's not your one owlbear is being ganged up on by 5 player characters. In addition to that owlbear, the GM also controls the weather, the state of the floor, nearby fires, precarious rocks, ancient prophecies, sudden arrivals, every other living being in the entire dimension, oh, and the gods watching over the fate of mortals for their entertainment. Here's my first suggestion. In Session 0, tell the players that combats can be fatal, so they should always remember that a retreat, surrender to an intelligent foe, or de-escalation should be options. Don't use kill XP, at least not exclusively. Surviving an encounter with some things is experience enough. Tell them that in order to keep the story going and to stop endless charge in, that every now and then you reserve the right to use a Deus Ex Machina narrative yoink to time skip past situations and TPKs. Then, if you get into a mess where you decide you cannot go through with our horrible deaths, cut the action. Them coming around days later in the clearing, the goblin camp, the jail in a town they've never visited. Go around with, how did you survive? Or why were you the first person to lose consciousness? Or is this the worst hangover you've ever had? Ask fun questions that they can implicate each other in, but there's no roles for any of this. Bandits can be robbers and not all murderers. Beasts can sniff the down bodies and realise there's no good eating there. Villains need captives to monologue at. Don't adjust the dice to pull a punch. Pull the punch out loud, openly. So look at the dice, gasp audibly, collect yourself and say, okay. Instead, the other time you might want to fudge the dice or use some sort of narrative gotcha is when the big bad you've lovingly crafted gets unexpectedly totaled in their first encounter. If you suspect this can happen, then foreshadow their dramatic escape by saying they're standing next to the teleport crystal, open window, mysterious MacGuffin. But if they're not the only ones surprised by it, don't toss a d20 and announce to everyone they stand still while the baddie scarper's monologuing as they go. It's going to cause resentment. Let them have the win. The villain is kaput. People don't carry all their treasure around with them anyway. And what are the minions or followers or megacore going to do if Daddy's not going to be home for supper? It's certainly not just dissipate into mist, unless you've obviously established that they are... You get it. Do I fudge die rolls? I play a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse type games, so I have the delight in knowing it's all the player's own fault if things go sideways with the dice. But in a game where I have dice, like Shadow Dark or Mothership, then yes, I would still quietly do so now and then. More likely, I'll decide if the combat is going on too long that this particular monster has some sort of pre-existing health issue, and so it might have less hit points than one might think. I'm the only one tracking it, so let's just down it and move on. I suppose my main advice about fudging rolls is not to sweat it too much, but also to try and notice if you're doing it all the time. I've gamed with dozens of different GMs over the 40 plus years I've been role-playing, and every single one of them would fudge the dice sometimes. Some hardly ever, but none of them never. And if you want to get out of the habit, pick up Monster of the Week or any other PBTA game and let the players' inescapable doom be all down to their own die rolls and theirs alone. I'm sure you have opinions on this. Please add to the comments downstairs and tell me why you've had to fudge when you resisted, and also how foolishly mistaken I am about all of this. I'm looking forward to your stories. And if you want to actually plan with the players how their characters are going to meet an untimely but heroic end, then you can do that. And I have opinions, of course, on that, and they're in the video linked here.